Hello everyone, my name is Tony Russell and I'm from Neighbours of Hespeler Village, and today I have the great honor of being with Lary Turner today from the Community of Neighbours, who helps run the Hespeler Heritage Centre. And so Larry, thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate it a lot.
Yep. Okay, good to see you, Tony.
Yes, so I just wanted to share with people, especially here in Hespeler, about the Community of Neighbours and the Hespeler Heritage Centre. There's a lot of people who grew up here in Hespeler, but then there's also a huge population that maybe just moved earlier this year, and they are still calling this place Cambridge, even though it's the Hespeler and all that. And they're learning that there's sometimes a difference and all that. So I was just wondering if you could explain what the Community of Neighbours is and also the Hespeler Heritage Centre.
Well, the Community of Neighbours has been around since about 1993. We were located originally down on the main street with we had 3 different storefronts down there. Basically, we're a hub of the community. Our board of directors and our executive here have been involved in nearly all aspects of Hespeler's life since we started. We participated in almost every special event that goes on, at least 3 reunions now, and the 4th one coming up next year, of which we have 3 members of our board on the committee. 4 members actually. One's an advisor and running the parade, I should say. And about 17 years ago, there was a lot of interest in our artifacts that we couldn't display, so we, after 2 years of negotiation with the city, we finally leased this space in what was the old Hespeler Town Hall. And now we have a small archive and museum here, strictly dedicated to Hespeler and Hespeler's rich heritage and history. And we do family research here. We do questions from all over the area. Actually, I just had a phone call from New Hampshire 2 days ago. Somebody wanting to identify a picture that had been taken here in Hespeler. So we get a lot of inquiries like that. We also have a little small gift shop here where we sell some souvenirs, and we host, as we did this morning, a drop-in center here for seniors from Tuesday to Friday.
Well, and people my age can come too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. It's open to everybody.
And I can vouch that they've always welcomed me and said hello.
And we look at ourselves as being a hub for the community, as I said. And we have members on the boards of churches. We have members in most service clubs in town. And most special events we have involvement in. So that's our mandate, is to preserve and to protect and promote the history of Hespeler. It came about after the amalgamation in 1973 when we became Cambridge. The fear was that the history of the Hespeler town of Hespeler would disappear. So with that, there was a historical group started, and it grew into the Community of Neighbours. We're a nonprofit, registered Ontario nonprofit. So all the money that's raised by us goes back into the community in one form or another. So
nice. Yeah. Okay. And how did you personally get involved? And then related, what is your, like, how long have you lived in Hespeler for?
I moved to Hespeler in 1962, and
that's when you were 2 years old, right?
Yeah, I would like to think that.
I can think alongside that.
Yeah, 1962, and have been here ever since. The community has been very good to me. I've spent my whole career working out of the post office here in Hespeler. And over the years, of course, through my job and through my involvement in service clubs and the Legion, I've got to know most of the people in town up until the big change came when we started opening up all the new subdivisions. But other than that, I married a local girl and raised our family here, and it's been very good life.
Yeah.
And a good community.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and so I personally started working for the magazine Neighbours of Hespeler Village back in 2019. The magazine started in 2017, and so when I came to this scene, the one person's name that kept coming up was, you need to go over to Community of Neighbours, you need to meet Lary Turner. And back then, I'm not sure if you still have it, but you apparently had this wicked top hat. Do you still have that somewhere?
Yes, I have the whole outfit, actually. I used to do historical walking tours out of here.
Yeah.
And we've done all kinds of things over the years.
And some of those walking tours are still, you can still find them on YouTube, right?
Yes, and we still do them, but we don't get as many requests to do it as we used to.
Yeah.
I've done walking tours with groups as small as 5 or 6 and up to as many as 30 or 35 at a time. More than that, it gets a little unwieldy kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you're always stopping, waiting for someone to catch up.
Yeah.
But it's I've developed 3 different walking tours over the years, different time frames, and different routes for people depending on their physical abilities and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've done a lot of that stuff. I spent 8 years on the Waterloo Regional Heritage Foundation as a representative, mostly with regard to Hespeler.
Yeah.
But during that time, because the Heritage Foundation works through the whole region, I had the opportunity to learn the history of a lot of different areas within the region, not just Hespeler, but I've always just concentrated on Hespeler, basically.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Okay. So with the actual Heritage Centre, so you briefly mentioned it before, and there's a lot of Hespelerites, people who've, grown up here, were born here, sometimes 3rd, 4th generations. There's also a lot of people who, just moved, over the last 5-10 years, even this past year, people are moving, and a lot of people coming from like sometimes bigger cities like Toronto, and they come in here, and one of the draws about Hespeler specifically is it does have that small town feel, and it feels like you're kind of going to this quaint little town, but you're like minutes away, like seconds away from the 401 and minutes away from like everything that you need on the other side of the 401 and all that. So for that group of people, like the new Hespelerites, if you will, what do you think would like benefit them with kind of knowing about the Hespeler Heritage Centre and, you know, like coming here and checking it out?
I did a survey many years ago now, maybe 20 years ago or so.
All right.
And when the original subdivisions started opening up, and I think the survey, if I remember correctly, showed that people get involved in the community basically within the first 5 years. Their early contacts within the community after they've moved here will be through sports teams for their children and school for their children. And from that, they start integrating more into the community, meeting different people and becoming involved in it. But eventually, down the road, they all take an interest in the history of the community. And I have any number of them come in here looking to find out aspects of the community, what was here before, what was it like, that kind of thing. And Hespeler was always a very proud individual town. Even though we got forced into a shotgun marriage with Galt and Preston, it's still...
I'm not commenting on that, Larry, but I do know that there's opinions about that.
It definitely was. We voted against it, but got pushed into it anyway. So anyway... That aspect of it has always been there, and that's one of the driving reasons for us operating the Heritage Centre, is to keep the history alive. And so much of it has been lost since the days that I remember in the 60s when you could walk downtown. You didn't need to leave the community. You could find anything you needed right here. You worked here, you lived here. All of the amenities were downtown, butcher shops, hardware stores, you name it. And so that has changed over the years, obviously. All the industry's gone. Most of the services we used to get downtown are now in shopping centers or big box stores outside of the community. So that aspect has definitely changed. But
well, and you know, like with the magazine or what have you, one of the cool things I appreciated about it is it just kind of helps you know more about your neighbors. Like, you know, you read about like Joy and Norm, who's on the cover, who grew up here and all of that. Or you know, learn about this other family that moved in 2 years ago and is loving it. And I find that, you know, unfortunately, Canadian society has kind of leaned to the direction where sometimes we just drive into the garage, the door goes down, and we never see or meet our neighbors. And I think, you know, like this was especially pronounced during COVID, that, you know, like we've been very disconnected, and, you know, people are craving that community and all of that. So
COVID changed the world. There's no question about that. And the lockdown certainly didn't help us.
Well,
anyway,
it definitely exacerbated, you know, like the feelings of isolation and loneliness, and it was tough for a lot of people. And, you know, thankful that we got on the other side of it. But so if a family were to come here, what should they expect to see if they're like, hey, we're free on a Saturday or, you know, like a weekday morning, let's go check out the Hespeler Heritage Centre? What should they expect to see?
Our main gallery out here is done in little venues, old Hespeler and the way it was back as I remember it in the 60s and 70s. A lot of the buildings have been either renovated, tore down, changed, that kind of thing. So it's a view of what it looked like back then. We have another little alcove that is set up with people that were important in the history of the town. We have all 21 of our mayors on display. We have an industrial room that is dedicated to all the old businesses that made the products and employed the citizens of the town, provided the paychecks for. So we've tried to tell their story through pictures of the business, pictures of the employees, and the products that they made. At least the ones that we got space for. Our space is very limited here.
There's no space for the Zamboni or whatever.
No. But that kind of thing. So and the general history, we've got a section devoted to Hespeler's reunions. We have a film that we show on the history of Hespeler. You can find a lot of our information on our website, the communityof or HespelerHeritageCentre.ca now.
And I'll include that link.
And we also have a Facebook page, the Hespeler Heritage Centre. We also have a throwback website called DominionWoolens.ca, which is loaded with information on Dominion Woolens, which was the main industry here for many, many decades. And basically, that's what you can expect to find.
Okay, well, I think that answers all of my questions. I wanted to end just saying something that's kind of been very meaningful to me. Unfortunately, I only found out about this at my grandfather's funeral, but I had no clue that when he came from Holland, when he was like 17 years old, he ended up landing here in Hespeler. I've got a picture of him, on the steps, going up to the post office. And, shortly after that, he ended up getting married. And my mom was born in the Cambridge Hospital, or I think it was Galt Hospital.
Galt Hospital.
In Galt Hospital. And for the very first week of her life, she actually lived in Hespeler. And then, my grandparents ended up like picking up the family and moving to Toronto. And it was just kind of tragic that I had no clue about any of this, or I didn't talk to my Opa about this, over the past 6 years while I've been doing this magazine, because I'm sure, I felt like I really missed out on a whole bunch of cool stories he could have shared. And so what I did personally, I came in here and I was like, Larry, this is what happened. Can you help me out? And you guys were able to, point me to directions and old photographs of Arctic's woolen, where he ended up working for a long time. And it was super cool. So I really appreciate using you guys as a resource and all of that. And, I think it would be really cool for, Hespelerites who are third or fourth generation to come here and check it out, or people who just maybe moved in from like Mississauga, like this past month, to kind of come in and just kind of learn more about this place. So
we have visitors coming from all over the place. A few months ago, I had Stefan and Hespeler and his wife from Jacob Hespeler's hometown in Germany. That's the fifth member of Jacob Hespeler's family that I've had here visiting. They're distant cousins.
Sure.
They're not direct descendants.
They're not like the great-grandfather or whatever.
Right. But our connections go deep here. I have a cousin who's married to a direct descendant of Hespeler's. My wife is descendant from Panabakers and all of the other older families in the town. So we have some pretty deep roots.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Larry, I appreciate
Well,
your time.
Thank you very much.
And, just to let all of you guys know, today is Larry's birthday. And I sprung this on him, and he said yes. So that's the type of wonderful, accommodating guy that he is. And so I want to wish you a very happy birthday, and thank you very much for sharing.
Well, thank you very much, Tony.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Okay.
Bye.
Oh,